mentioned that you went to Tokyo during your teenage years. Is that
Yeah.
what exactly brought you to Tokyo?
So, long story short, everything starts with Power Rangers, I want to probably say. So, like, I'll skip through some of these chapters, but like, I think Power Rangers was the first time for a lot of American kids of our generation that we saw, like, I guess, Asian aesthetics on TV without realizing it. Like from like when they would get into the suits, it'd be like, reuse Japanese footage. So like, you look at the city and everyone has black hair suddenly. Or like, like the kaiju monsters and like the mecha. That was all, like Japanese productions and stuff. And like when I was a kid, I think like season three, they leaned more into like the Japanese aspect of it, right? Like they were ninjas and all this stuff. But like, it's very much Americanized repackaging of that. So I was lucky enough again to be in Orlando, and my family used to go to the Walt Disney World Complex, and I loved Epcot. And Epcot has like, it has one side at the time was like futurism, and the other side was like the World's Showcase. And as a kid, I was a futurist, but I also wanted to study other cultures. And I remember when you're like 8 or 9, you don't know the difference yet between Japan and China. But when you see that motif, you're like, oh, I gravitate towards this because I like the show Power Rangers. So when we went to China, like the motifs look kind of similar to me. Because, when America represents Asian cultures, they kind of blend it, they kind of wash it together in like one homogenous thing. So I started liking China, but then as I got hip to Japan, and my dad bought me like I forgot like it's not an almanac, but it's like well, it's like a book of the world that has different countries represented. I forgot the name of the title of the book,
That's what
but
I was about
like
to say. Is there a
yeah,
specific term for those types of
yeah,
books?
there's a specific term for that book. It's like a country encyclopedia, but I can't think of the name right now. But he bought me one from the DK brand that had pictures and stuff. Back in the 90s, the DK brand was like peak,
Yes,
educational, like scholastic utopian design. So I
exactly.
had this
Yeah.
book and I was reading the chapter about China, but then they had a chapter about Japan. I was like, oh, this is what I want. It's like, they were showing how Japan is high tech with like video phones. This is like, 94. And I was like, that's sign me up. So from that moment, I fixated on Japan and I fixated on Tokyo because, I had ADHD. So it was like my first super interest in life. And then it turns out I had a cousin who's been living here since that time, since the 90s. So, I was put in touch with my cousin via like, email, like early email and stuff, like a couple years later. And he was like, yeah, if you want to move to Tokyo, you just gotta learn Japanese. So I tried to learn Japanese. And then I was lucky enough to have like Japanese American friends when I got to high school. And then I think, yeah, one year my Japanese class, they needed people to go to Japan. I was selected to go. And then that put me in touch with the host family and it put me in touch with my cousin out here. And then after that, I started coming on my own until I moved here, like, permanently, like when I was 21.
Wait. Okay. So you had a cousin there. How is your cousin still out there now?
Yeah, we just bought a house, just had a second kid. Yeah.
Oh, see that part I didn't know. See, that's
Yeah, I have
interesting
two
too.
cousins out here.
Really? Is it?
Yeah.
Are your cousins also? Did they also come from New Jersey or Florida? Somewhere from
So
Florida
my
also?
cousin Craig came from the Boston area. So he's like a third cousin. So he's a cousin on my dad's side is actually the link between he and I. But black people were like, well, that's close enough, cousins. So,
Yeah.
it's like, all right, come on, close enough. And then I have another cousin who's actually a cousin that like is a chosen cousin, quote unquote, and she's from Texas. Because I think any immigrant or expat or immigrant, anyone can understand that after a while, like living overseas, sometimes more than friends, but not like a romantic partner. Like you need like a third category of people who have your back. And I think that's where like chosen family comes. So my other cousin that lives here, she's like a chosen cousin. So
Interesting. Okay, so then that definitely made your adjustment to moving to the country. Would you say it made it easier?
yeah, like I never had any fear of coming to Japan. And I think also like, you and I were talking about going to school in predominantly white spaces. Being black in America in predominantly white spaces, you're already a gaijin. So when I got here, it was like, oh, I'm a gaijin, but the white people, they're gaijin too. So like it leveled the playing field. So like, there wasn't any like anti-black microaggressions in Japan like I experienced back home. It was just, oh, you're not Japanese. Why aren't you Japanese? Like, why would you choose to not be Japanese?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? But it wasn't like, oh, you're black. Or like, can I say the N-word? Or like, why do black people do this? Like, it wasn't any of that. So it was easy for me. It was just, obviously getting used to how like things are systemically set up here.